And there's that twist ending there at the end of chapter 2.
We are now ready to start focusing our attention towards a very specific milestone in our story. And today, as a very major spoiler episode, we want to share with you pretty much a scene-by-scene breakdown of how we get from the beginning of the story to that major point. It's really kind of the first part of the book. And we'll share the scene-by-scene breakdown along with how effective we think each chapter ending is going to be so far.
All right, so we've got 4 chapters in this first part, and the end of the 4th chapter is the point in the story that the hero's journey pattern would call crossing the threshold. And that's the hero taking their first step into a bigger world. It's the point in Star Wars where Luke is leaving Tatooine, or in Lord of the Rings where Frodo is leaving the Shire. They're going from the status quo and the world that they have known into something completely different.
So let's go ahead and get started. I'll start with a summary of chapter 1. And we start where, and again, major spoilers, we've talked about some of these before. We get to meet Arnold and Vanessa. Vanessa asks Arnold if he has been experiencing certain symptoms. Arnold is surprised that Vanessa talks to him seriously since they are such different people. And he basically panics and doesn't answer her question. The next scene, Arnold's talking with his best friend Reese about the experience that he just had. And he's approaching panic because of that scenario, and he pulls out his inhaler to help him. Reese gives advice on how to approach the situation. In this scene, we get to learn about Arnold's inhaler, which will make a symbolic return later in the book. And then we get to see the strengths, weaknesses, and fears of both Arnold and Reese. The next scene, we switch the point of view, and now we get to see Vanessa, and she is in her bedroom processing her first interaction with Arnold. She gets a message from the scientists that ask about the result of her conversation with Arnold, and we get to see her internal conflict, both during and after her response, where she has to report some failure. We also get a little bit of a glimpse into her relationship with her foster parents and with the scientists. And then we get a hint of another symbolic object that is going to show up later in the book. Then the final scene that we have right now in chapter 1 is that following this internal processing, she's at home and she has a little blow up with the Dillers because Mrs. Diller invites Vanessa and expects her to come to dinner now. The Dillers have this habit of eating dinner while Jeopardy is on, and they expect her to join them. And because it's Friday, they plan to play board games together as a family, the way that the Dillers used to when they were children. They've been expecting this all week, and Vanessa is finally tired of it. And at that point, the ending, we look at this and we think this is probably a weak ending to a chapter. That's the process that we have so far. Tonight, our plan is to really look through the rest of our structure up to this milestone. So a lot of what we're talking about today will likely change and hopefully get better when we talk tonight.
Right. The main structure should stay the same, but a lot of the details are probably going to change. So chapter 2 starts out with another conversation between Arnold and Vanessa, and she is sharing with him a lot of the things that she probably wanted to in the first conversation, but he didn't let her, about how both of them were created for a specific purpose. That they were given this ability through genetic modification by these scientists from the future, and that they are needed in order to communicate with these slime molds that the scientists are having issues with. She tells him that the scientists designed them in the future, brought them back to the past, dropped them off to be raised, so that way once they were able to mature to the point that when the scientists needed them, they would be able to help out with the problem that they were having. After this conversation, Arnold talks with his parents to kind of see if he can confirm Vanessa's story, and he asks them what his true background is, because they are his adoptive parents. And while they don't know a whole lot about his background, what they do know matches up with what Vanessa told him. and he shares a little bit about how she claims that he was created for a purpose by these scientists, and that there's a mission that he needs to accomplish. And his dad has a little bit of excitement about this. His mom's a little hesitant. His parents eventually decide that they need to meet Vanessa and try to learn more about what's actually going on here. So Arnold is talking with Vanessa in the next scene about how his parents want to meet her. And here we introduce a little bit of the differences in Arnold and Vanessa's relationship to authority, where it's clear that Arnold wants to do these things to please his parents and to help them make the best decision for him. Vanessa seems to disregard authority and says, why do you even need their permission? And we get to learn a little bit more about who these characters are. And then the final scene in this chapter takes place after that conversation, where Vanessa is talking again with the scientists from the future, and they reveal to her that they have realized that Vanessa and Arnold actually need to be pulled to the future. They can't just wait it out until they mature and just reach the future naturally. They have to be pulled at this time because they need them while they are still this age in order to accomplish their purpose. And it is there at that revelation that chapter 2 ends. And so there's this sudden acceleration of the plot where you realize, oh, I think we've talked about this a little bit in the previous video. You thought you had all this time to prepare. Surprise, you have to go now. Mm-hmm. And there's that twist ending there at the end of chapter 2.
Chapter 3, then, we do see, as we have it written so far, we see a scene where Vanessa decides to go to the future. That scene may be invisible, or maybe just included in the paragraph that he has there. But the next scene that we're sure is there is that Vanessa tells Arnold that they need to go earlier to the future, and she tries to recruit Arnold to jump forward with her. Then there's a scene where, again, Arnold takes this back to his parents, and his dad escalates the importance of having this conversation. We need to meet with Vanessa and be able to, through her, have a conversation with the scientists. The next scene is having that conversation. Vanessa is there, and through her, Arnold's dad gets to talk to the scientists, and he asks their names, lots of questions about how and when they started. He writes something down on a sticky note and puts it in his safe. Then he gives the scientists his own email address and phone number and tells them to contact him in their timeline in the future and ask him what number he wrote down, and then let the current him know what that number is. The answer comes back immediately, and it's some number factorial. And the message comes back, and he said that you would understand. Arnold's dad is surprised, but he agrees to let Arnold go as a result of this. In this end of this scene, it's an acceleration, it's a moving forward of the plot in a way that is hoped for, but yet leaves some anticipation. I want to see what this is going to be like.
Right. Then we get to chapter 4, where Arnold has conversations with a number of different people, probably his parents, Vanessa, probably Reese as well. And we're not sure exactly how we're going to structure this, but basically the point of these scenes is Arnold deciding for himself that he is going to go to the future. He already has his parents' permission, but he's struggling through making the decision himself. And so Vanessa is very much trying to convince him. He's trying to talk with his parents about, is this the best decision to make? How is this going to affect me? He's talking with his best friend as well. And we think his best friend is probably, Reese is probably also going to have some things that kind of push him towards deciding to go to the future, because this is a incredible opportunity for him as his best friend sees it. The next scene is one that we're not exactly sure if we're going to include, but it was the idea of Vanessa and Arnold writing letters to their parents. For Vanessa, also writing a letter to her foster care caseworker, explaining what they're about to do. And within this, we get a little bit more about how Arnold and Vanessa see their parents, a little bit more about their home life. And there's also the possibility of them kind of reviewing each other's letters and realizing that the home life that they thought was normal is not how the other person experiences their home life. And kind of highlighting the differences there between how these characters grew up and how they see the world. And then after this, it's time for them to go to the future. So they meet up. They find the pod that they need to get into to get pulled into the future. Arnold is the first one to get in the pod. He's the point of view character in this final scene here in the chapter. Vanessa straps him in or does whatever is needed. And he starts experiencing this mind-boggling cacophony of senses that starts the journey to the future. And that is where the chapter ends, with this incomplete experience and a little bit of a cliffhanger that you know he's going to the future and you have no idea what is going to be in store for him when he gets there.
So those are our 4 chapters so far. Some of those may not survive tonight's clarification of our structure, but we're interested in your feedback on what you thought of our chapter endings so far, with what little detail we were able to share with you. But the other piece of feedback that we would like for you to share with us in the comments is some classic chapter endings that you think are extremely effective in helping you want to read on to the next chapter. Let us know that in the comments, and we will see you again next week.